Let me fix this thing. What is going on here? Cece, I need my arm. All right, let's tweak this thing slightly. Cha-cha-cha. There we go. Put my little cat clip back. I don't know if people can actually see that. It's a little kitty. There's just little
I can't make out.
Tortilla chip bag clips, but it's a cat.
Oh, I see. I see.
Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Kevin from the Carolinas on the east coast of the USA, and he's here to share a dream with us. So enough jabberjawing from me. I'm going to throw it over to Kevin. Go ahead and tell us your dream whenever you're ready.
All right. So as it starts, I'm in a condo, very nice condo, apartment complex sort of thing. And the window, or I wake up in a bed, feeling a little bit sick, and I decide to stay in for the day. You know, you just don't feel like going to work or whatever, or school is what I had at the time. And I look out the window, and the window's pretty big. It's pretty much a wall for the room. And the room is modern, minimal setting. There's not very much things in it. Maybe just the bed, honestly, and like a hardwood floor. The walls are white, or grayish white kind of thing. And I look out to the window, and it's snowing outside. And what we're in is this big city, but the skyscrapers are arranged sort of like a forest of trees, and it's beautiful almost. You know, like with the white sky. Clouds above, it's snowing, and we're the placement of the room within where we are is about the middle of the city. Okay, and this is more relevant a little bit later, but generally, you didn't need to go down to the bottom of the building to get from building to building. There were scaffolding and bridges connecting the tops and the middles of all the buildings. You didn't quite see it from the window, but later on, that detail will be more relevant, I guess. But I wake up and I have a younger sister in this condo, and she's worse than I am. I'm just a little bit sick, maybe have a minor cold. A seasonal cold kind of thing. She's like almost dying, like really rough kind of thing. I do not have a younger sister. I have a older sister in real life. This is just a random younger sister. She somewhat resembles my older sister, but not like completely. So seeing her in her condition, I decide to leave the condo and cross these scaffoldings, these bridges from building to building. The thing was, I had to be careful because there were monsters roaming around the city, and these monsters were pretty big. They were like they were, in a sense, they swam through the air, and they were sort of whale-like, like as large as whales, and they kind of swam in that kind of pattern, I guess is how to say it. And I had to be very careful because, you know, they were just going to gobble me up or something like that. And I had to look around, and I found somebody on the roof of another building, and there was I don't know what they're called, but it's like a section of the top of the building, sort of like where the air conditioning unit and all the utility stuff is. It's like on one side, I have the edge of the other building right here, and then there's another skyscraper going all the way up. And I find him leaned up against this utility section of the building. And he's dead, dying, I don't quite remember. And he's rough. And as I examine him and look at him, I feel the presence of a monster, and I see the shadow kind of pass over me as I'm looking at the body. It just like comes over, and I like duck and get scared. The guy's gone and dead, and I don't. So I decide to head back to the condo, make my way back to the condo. And when I get back to the condo, I find my younger sister dead. And at that time, I have an incredible amount of guilt and sorrow. And somewhat, the guilt comes from, like, I think the whole thing's my fault. Like, the dead, like, because it felt like everybody was dying. I didn't just find that guy randomly, but it was like everybody was dying, and it was like a disease that was spreading across the world, and it was somewhat my fault in a sense. And in that moment, the scene changes. It kind of cuts away. I'm no longer the man in the condo, but I am just an observer from bird's eye view. I go to a field that's near the city. It's a very smooth field. There's no snow on it. It's just kind of grass. What happens is, like, you know how, like, when something comes out of the ground, it kind of like tears apart the soil in, like, chunks of rock. Something kind of emerged out of that soil like that. And it kind of floated horizontally up. And it was the closest thing I could think to what it looks like is Evangelion Unit 1, if you've ever seen that anime. It wasn't purple, I wouldn't say, but it was kind of like a white and red color. It looked very much like it, kind of like an organic machine type of thing, you know. It rose out of the ground. It floated horizontally, sort of thing. And what it yelled, it kind of proclaimed in a very terrifying way, I have been reborn. And the character of how it said it was sort of like it was rubbing it in my face, like it knew my desires and my goals and stuff like that, like, better than I did almost. And like it's coming back to life, destroyed and shattered all of that, you know. So I'm close to the end, and the robot kind of floats up a little bit, and then a copy forms in front of it. The original copy stops moving, but this floats in front of that. And then that repeats, so another copy forms in front of that, and then that floats a little bit. And it forms sort of like a pattern, but as it's doing this, it's transforming and changing and getting smaller. And the path of that stuff lands on the tallest skyscraper in the city. And it by the end of it, when it lands, it's the size of a man, a person. And it cuts again. I'm back in my apartment. I'm looking out through the window. And instead of the forest arrangement, the skyscrapers are now lined up, and kind of like an interesting arrangement. Like, they're kind of staggered. Like, each row is staggered, but it's like they're lined up horizontally with their, like, there'll be one right here, and they'll be lined up horizontally, and then there'll be another on the side, and they're lined up, but they're also lined up this way too in rows. So it's a hard arrangement to describe. And it's nighttime, and I see the path of those robots. I call them shills or whatever, but they're underneath a crescent moon, pointing up like this, and the horizon, like, you know, in Twilight, where, like, there's a changing color gradient kind of thing. The color gradient is like white, red, and then black. Okay, so it has that kind of color to it. And then it cuts again. I'm at the base of the tallest tower, okay, where the robot shells or whatever landed. And I see a grave to my left, okay, and it's kind of a futuristic looking grave. It's like, no, it's not, or it's like very, very nice and modern kind of looking. But there's a there's an effect over the grave. I don't know if you ever played Dark Souls.
I have not, but I've seen it a few times.
I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a green effect to it. It's very nice and kind of almost warm looking green, and it's like a lighting effect, kind of streaks of green light kind of hovering over this. It doesn't look like an aurora, but it's like they're distinct lines of light that you can see that are kind of mixed about. There's an effect on Dark Souls. I don't know if your viewers might know, but it's like, I think once you have a stamina ring, it constantly, or some sort of equipment, it looks like that.
Maybe I'll go try and look that up and see if I can put a graphic on the screen, like right during this part. We'll see. We'll see if I can do something like that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I had this intuition in the dream that grave was my younger sister's grave, and the green light to me indicated that there might be a chance to bring her back and kind of undo everything, undo all the because it felt like this was the end of the apocalypse happened and this is the end of it. But I had the chance to rewrite it in a sense with that grave, and I was at the base of the tower, just about to enter it, kind of like the first level of a video game or something like that, or like the last level of a video game. But I'm at the start of it, and then the dream. I wake up.
Okay.
Do you need me to clarify anything or go back over a detail?
That's what we do for the second part. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Just looking to make sure I wrote everything down. I was just thinking here. Okay. Yeah. Very nice. Good stuff. You see, I've got all these pages of notes, and that's just the start. And then I use that as a framework to then go back through for what I've just kind of taken to calling the deep dive. So that's the story, and then the deep dive through the story again for as many details or experiences as we can, and then we'll get on to what the hell does it all mean. So in the very beginning, you're in your what you know is your apartment in your bed, and you wake up in the dream already kind of feeling sick.
And for context, I skipped a lot of school in that region of time. I had a couple classes, and there was one class in the morning. I skipped it a lot. I didn't end up passing the class, so there was some tension about that too. I know, I always felt bad about doing it, kind of thing. So just a preliminary detail on the context. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And some of that stuff may and probably will come up during the deep dive, but most of that stuff will come, say, at the interpretation part, which is, this is all kind of laying the groundwork to get us there. Right. So this process, I do, is mostly I want to see it as clearly as I can. I make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. And then very often there's additional stuff that kind of fell through the cracks in your memory, and it just comes out of the ground like that Evangeline. And yeah, so, and you decided to stay home in bed for the day, but you changed your mind about that eventually. But the sequence of events before you decided to get up was you were still laying in bed when you looked out the window. Okay.
I was. Oh wait, I was still laying in bed when I looked out the window. I wasn't laying in bed when I went to go get my sister. I got out of bed. I think I went into a different room, or a hallway of some sort.
Yeah, and that was that. So very often the sequence of events matters. So that's why I nailed down some of this stuff. I got you. So it seemed like there was a whole section where you were describing what you were able to perceive from that place in bed where you were feeling sick and I don't want to get up, and all of that was a part of being in bed and a part of that scene in your mind was noticing the things you noticed while you were having that experience, so to speak. So, so this is where you were looking out, and so you also noticed apparently that the room itself was kind of plain. You said minimalist is how you described it. So there just isn't a lot there. There's not a lot going on in that space, which removes distractions, but also could, the purpose of it could be that to your mind saying the space is not itself is not important. You got the basics here. You understand it's a room. Good enough. Moving on. But it also could be representative of the kind of undecorated. And I'm getting ahead of myself with some of the potential interpretation stuff. But it is interesting too that then you had this large window, and it was not just a window. It was not just a big window. It was like the size of the entire wall. So there's something there. And these are I'll do a little I don't know if people can see. I do a little carrots when I start writing stuff down where I'm like, I want to come back to that. So fix that in your mind too. The idea that you've got this very unobstructed view, like you're seeing this very clearly through a big window. There's something there. This is kind of how my process works to start keying in on this stuff. And what you're noticing through this large unobstructed view is the layout of the city around you and your place in it, that it's a very large city. You get the sense that you're in kind of the center, that your apartment complex or whatever is kind of in the center of this city, and that these skyscrapers you're looking out at are very much there's a beauty to it as if of a forest, and that's what I wanted to come back to a little bit, because you were starting to describe it a little bit, but how did it appear forest-like to you when you think about that concept? What comes to mind? What made it forest-like?
Well, when you right, when you look at a forest, the trees are kind of random, right, all over the place, but also like they go way above you, like they're bigger than you, kind of thing. Like you kind of in awe of like how big that thing is and how take that out of context. Just like the shape and the size and like all that, like what it means, and like how else to describe it? I guess a familiarity too. I would say, I guess, and maybe a peacefulness to it as well, like a relaxing peacefulness to it. I mean, just something about me. I like looking at cities. I like, my background is, I think a place in Korea or Hong Kong. Yeah, something like that. And it, with vibrant colors and stuff like that. The city did not have vibrant colors. It was very kind of like monochromatic, but it was not in a bad way, I wouldn't say.
Okay. Yeah, and that is
like
interesting.
It wasn't drab or
not drab. Gotcha. So, but from your perspective in this apartment complex or condo building at the heart of the city, the center of the city, what you're seeing is actually skyscrapers that out your window, they go way up. There, you get the feeling of being in a forest.
By center, I don't just mean center of the city, but also the center of the building I was in too, I think, or like center height. But like the buildings were so tall,
okay, gotcha.
And they were also different heights of buildings all around too. Yeah.
Okay, so that gave the kind of forest, like this is smaller trees or taller trees, but
right, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's what gave you that impression. So it's not that, say, the building you were in was small, but you were in one of these tall buildings, but from where you were at, you were looking out the window and they went way up.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. It's just, so now just with that, I have a better image of you in bed and what you're seeing out the window, and it may or may not be relevant to this section. I don't know. It seems like almost everything is relevant to everything, but we may never figure it out. But the idea that you actually couldn't see the sky bridges from this perspective, it seems like there's maybe something.
Like they weren't there, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like they were just kind of appeared when I needed to go places, or like they just happened to be there when I needed to leave the apartment. I guess.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't any like what is it? You know, like point of interest, like, oh, you can do this when you leave the building. No, it was just like,
Yeah.
I need to go look around. Oh, wait, I can cross these bridges that were there. Yeah.
Sure. And they may not have appeared, or rather it is to say they did not appear in the dream until you needed them. So there is that, but it may be also that from the perspective of whatever this room and this view represent, they're not visible for a reason. That's kind of what I'm getting at, is the idea that they don't appear here because they aren't needed, they aren't necessary, you aren't aware of them. There's something going on there where this from that place, this connection between I don't know, but that's kind of bing. I get a little spark of meaning, like that's interesting. So in the next part of the dream, was there a moment you're lying in bed and you decide you need to check on your sister? Or how did that kind of transition happen? What caused you to go from laying in bed looking out the window to my sister's dying? What was that moment?
I think it was just me getting out of bed, and then I think maybe stumbling upon her because I'm trying to maybe make breakfast or maybe get some food or something, or like go to the bathroom. Some sort of just daily activity I needed to do to get out of the bed, and then I just stumble upon her.
Okay.
Or pass by her room or something like that. And I didn't enter her room. I know I didn't enter her room, and she was not in her room. She was like in a hallway close to my room, something like that, or maybe near the entrance of my room, something like that.
Okay.
I know I didn't go into another room to find her.
Gotcha. But you can't. You don't have a clear idea of what made you get out of bed. You don't have to. You remember you don't.
Yeah, I think it was just probably just a daily activity that he needed to do. That was my motivation in the dream, something like that. Because again, this isn't like I lucid dream some, but this was not a lucid dream. This was like pure
dream
ego kind of thing, dream logic.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was like in real life. So I was like, oh, I'm staying here for the day. Let me figure out what I'm gonna do. I gotta eat food. So let's go.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's probably what was my thinking in the dream.
And it may or may not be relevant. There's a lot of I call it rattling doorknobs. Right. I'm like, what is this thing? The door doesn't come open. We move on.
Right.
But the reason I focus on some of these things or ask some of these questions is it's usually like, and you mentioned it too, and then the scene changed, and then the scene changed, and those scene changes are usually like your mind. In my estimation, my theoretical approach, your mind finishes processing what it's trying to observe or experience in that first setting, and now it's got something else that it's going to focus on. And sometimes those transitions are triggered by specific things, and that triggering of like, so there's something to the idea that you're laying in bed, you're sick, you look out the window, you notice the buildings are arranged like a giant, beautiful forest. And immediately after that ish is when you go out and discover your sister. So there might be some connection between those two ideas that one causes the next. I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff I key in on. Yeah. So you don't actually say, she's not lying on the couch in the living room. She's not in her own room, but she's actually in the hallway near your room. Like maybe she was coming towards you.
I do know she was on the floor. She was on the floor. I know that. I didn't mention that. But
as if a sudden collapse.
Sort of. Yeah. Like maybe I didn't stumble upon her when she collapsed, but like maybe she did sometime,
Yeah, or at least you discover her on the floor. And that may or may not, the idea that she's in the hallway as if interrupted in doing something else and overcome by this thing that we would imagine in the dream that she's not behaving abnormally, or that this is abnormal for her, that she doesn't typically just chill in the hallway. That would stand out in the dream if that was like not unusual for her at all. Oh, that's just where she sits. She likes to sit in the hallway.
Right.
Yeah. And let me make a note of that right there too. Did you do anything for her in that moment, or you realized you needed to leave immediately, and that's I got to go get help?
Aside from like kind of like I guess prop her up and like kind of try to like kind of like move her, I guess in some sense, like kind of check up on her and kind of look at her. I don't remember doing any specific things to check up on her. Just like kind of maybe moved her to maybe a bed of some sort or
make her more comfortable.
Yeah. But but like I could recognize her state at the time, like she was pretty bad. Yeah. And I decided the need to leave. Yeah.
So yeah, there was that kind of moment of I'm going to do what I can. This doesn't seem like it's enough. I'm going to go do something more.
Right. Whatever I could do for her, whatever was in the space I was in at currently was not enough. Like I need to go, out.
You did it, so you got to go find some help.
Yeah.
For sure. And was it at that moment, after deciding you needed to leave to go find help, that you had that first recollection or impression that, oh yeah, there's monsters out there? Is that kind of the sequence of events? I need to go get help. Shit, there's monsters.
I think so, actually. Yeah, I think so. It was like, as cartoonish as it sounds, kind of. It's like, oh, oops, forgot the paper, kind of thing. But like,
yeah, and that actually kind of makes sense too. Again, I'm keying in on this kind of stuff where once you've decided a goal, I'm going to get help. That's the point I'm going to. Then your mind starts saying, okay, what are my obstacles? Fuck, monsters. That's why they would appear at that moment. And that would also be maybe say why the sky bridges would appear. Not that they weren't there before, but because now this is, okay, now I'm navigating obstacles and I'm finding, what is the opposite of an obstacle? Something that helps complete the path, the steps I need to do.
I mean, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a tool, I guess.
Tools, the tools I need to employ to reach my objective, which literally is crossing buildings. You've got these sky bridge things. So was it in this recollection or impression of monsters that you understood the nature of them immediately in that moment? Like you didn't have to get outside the building to see them, to know what they were and how they moved and the size and the shape? Or was it actually when you got outside the building that you saw them for the first time?
I don't think I ever saw one.
Okay.
I think I had a was like either told to me as a story, like I'm recollecting a story in that moment kind of thing, or like a news story of some sort. Yeah. Okay. And maybe there were like grainy images of them in like whatever I'm referencing or remembering, but I never actually saw one active.
Gotcha.
Moving around.
That is interesting too, that you've got this, say, an understanding of something that you are certain exists. You've seen proof of it. You have even this dream image memory of having seen this proof before. But even when you went out there, you never saw one. That's also interesting. I don't know if that may just a little check mark next to that too.
Yeah.
So do you remember the process of getting outside the building at all? Or just suddenly scene change
suddenly scene change. I remember a little bit of crossing the bridge and being a little bit careful, or the bridges, like going from bridge to bridge, and like watching my step, kind of holding the railing, like it's kind of like Indiana Jones kind of rope bridge, kind of not quite, like it seems more like metal, like it's not completely wood, but it's like more like metal and like city stuff.
So I don't know if you've been in some other sky bridges, but they're usually like enclosed hallways, like between buildings. Okay. Have you been in any? So do you have an impression of what that would be like, or
I've seen some, but gotcha. I don't think I've ever been in one. Or
it's almost like you're not leaving the building at all. You're just walking over the street. So, sort of, yeah. But in this dream, it was actually more of like a bridge and kind of a narrow, barely stable in a way, not a rope bridge, not that fragile, but it wasn't a beast, and it wasn't just an enclosed hallway where you were protected. You were actually exposed as
Yes.
Do you remember having any sensations of strong wind or the structure shaking or giving you the impression that it might be unstable?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
It was just more crossing, watch my step. I think maybe there was like, I think I was appreciating the look of the city. I was looking more down though. I wasn't looking up. I know that if there's any detail that like it's out in my mind, it was like I was more looking kind of low to the ground and at other buildings that were shorter than the building that I was crossing
Gotcha.
between.
Do you remember having the
Yeah.
impression that if there were any monsters, that's where they were coming from? That they would come up? Or
If
that
I got any impression of where the monsters would come, it would be more like around a building. Like they would kind of just like
it would
come
surprise
around.
you?
Yeah, kind of
Okay.
thing. Yeah. Like, but they would be at any height. But I guess I was just like, kind of more just an appreciation of like how the city looked. That I was just kind of looking low into the ground, kind of thing.
Okay. So you're actually kind of
So,
enjoying the view in a way?
yeah. I would say that. Yeah.
And do you have an impression of your emotions as you're doing that? Like, were you scared or actually kind of, this is all status quo?
Anxious.
Little anxiety about
Definitely.
the monsters, the bridge.
Just
You're
everything at the moment. Like the bridge, the monsters, my sister.
okay.
Just like the need to do things and being in a precarious position. Not like terrified or anything like that, but just
Gotcha.
general anxiety.
Okay, gotcha. And it seemed to be directed towards just the whole circumstance, just everything that was going on.
Yes.
Gotcha. Do you remember having that? I haven't asked you really about your emotions throughout the rest of the dream. Any emotions stand out from being in the room, finding your sister?
I guess I was just guilty that I was going to stay in for the day. I was like, I really shouldn't do this kind of thing. Like I've done it too many times. But I wanted to stay in for for the day.
Guilty, that
But
kind
guilt.
of feeling of avoiding responsibilities that you really should
Yes.
take care of. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just like really scared when I realized my sister was, or like upset that she was really far gone, and in bad shape, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
and I guess just looking at the city, kind of if there was an emotional state, it was like relaxing, calm, kind of like this is a nice view, and
I think you did mention
appreciating.
that actually. Yeah, peaceful,
Yeah.
relaxing, calm. Gotcha. Well, that's why I write this shit down because what has
Right,
it only been like 5 minutes since you said that, and I've already forgotten
Yeah.
it. Now I try and perform the miracle of tearing the page. Oh,
Right.
it's nice and flat.
Oh, perfect.
Right? I've done that with all of them so far. If I pay attention, I can usually get it. I smell the low CD thing.
Right.
So do you remember crossing just the one bridge or multiple bridges to get to where you then found the person by the, say, air conditioner housing?
I think it was just one bridge. Maybe there was like maybe there was a memory of like kind of looking around the city, kind of. But the only thing that sticks out in my head really is like walking the bridge. Like I guess me thinking about it is like it was like exploring the city was sort of like understanding that there were monsters outside. It was kind of like I know I did it. I have like a memory of doing it, but like there's no dream images of doing that there.
Gotcha. So you just had this sense that before you reached that building with the other person on it, that you had maybe gone through a larger search.
Yes.
But you didn't have the experience of that search in detail through the dream. Okay.
Yes.
That is why I asked. Because it'd be one thing if it's like you went straight over to the next building and that's where you found the guy. That's one type of thing. But this actually kind of intermediary where you put effort into it, or there was a longer process involved. There might be something there. And that this was finding this other person on the other building was more of the end of that search process brought you there. So there might be something there too. What am I looking at here? And you did say that the building that you got onto with this person was shorter, but kind of connected to another taller building that went way up.
Or it was very close to it at the very least. I don't know if I could say it was connected. I wouldn't know, But
what you noticed was
like
whether or not they were
heights,
connected,
like,
but that there were two buildings next to each other, and that one was much taller than the other.
and then there was another like smaller section of the building that kind of jutted up a little bit.
Okay.
Where like the utilities stuff would be housed, like maybe the air conditioning unit and the plumbing, some of the plumbing stuff,
or the
that
like
kind
the
of
top of the elevator shaft type of deal.
sort of. Yeah. It might be the elevator shaft motor kind of thing. Yeah.
And how did you become aware of that person?
Saw them like when I was on the building. Like I saw them kind of laying up against the elevator motor room thing, or I don't know what they're called.
Yeah,
but,
it is. But it is an interesting thing that there was some kind of a. Well, you see, boy, he's sneezing. He's just going to sleep right there. That's good, as long as he's not laying all over the papers. That makes it complicated.
But much easier. Yeah.
It is interesting that you have a. He wasn't just laying out on a flat rooftop with nothing. That was what I'm trying to say. There was, say, another building, and this building was something to do with the structure itself. It had some purpose, a function, a utility for that building.
Well,
go ahead.
In some ways, like it helped me. I think, my feeling in the dream, and also just remembering back on it, it hid me from the monster. I was in this narrow hallway. Like not a narrow hallway, but a narrow like hallway, sort of, or like kind of spot. So you would have to be looking directly down to see me. But since the monster just kind of flew over, and it's just kind of looking, maybe it's just looking around, out and about. It's not like focusing its vision anywhere. It didn't quite catch me, kind of thing. So like. That was my impression. Is like this was kind of like. Probably why I found the man was monsters couldn't find him, and they couldn't find me as well. Because they would need to know that they were there and looking there.
Gotcha. So if they tended to say swim around buildings, you're taking this safe path of obscured vision for these creatures, these threats. You're going a direction where the threat can't see you as well. You're taking those reasonable precautions against the danger, and that's where you find...
it wasn't it's just like I found myself there, kind of thing.
Sure.
Like, I didn't like go I didn't go into it, and it wasn't really a very big space. It was kind of just like this part of the building that I happened to find this person in, and then like events happened. But like it wasn't like I saw it, I thought it was safe or anything like that. It was just like
this is kind of in some ways post hoc rationalizing for why the image was there, but then to have you describe it that way is like, well, maybe that's the concepts your mind was dealing with of in the context of this dream, whatever the monsters represent, then being in this place where they wouldn't find the man and they wouldn't necessarily see you, because it was and I'm having a hard time describing what I'm trying to say. It was the idea of having it obscured from so danger can't get a look at you. So something in there, some path of safety or precaution. I don't know. Throwing stuff out. We'll see. What.
I'm not conscious by the dream ego, at the very least, is what.
Yeah, you don't remember making that decision. I'm going to go where it's safe.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. No, that's good. And that's good to have that clarification too, is this kind of just happened unconsciously. For all that the whole dream's happening unconsciously, technically.
Right. Yeah.
But then, so do you remember having any visual image of this person, age, size, clothing?
It was probably a middle-aged man. He was skinny, I would say. Not very well built or anything like that. He had hair, unlike me. But he didn't have any beard or anything like that. It was kind of clean shaven.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any impression of?
Seemed like he was wearing normal clothes, like just civilian clothes. Nothing clothes stood out to
casual.
Indicate what kind of person he was. Maybe a dad.
Not a military outfit, not a business suit, just whatever, pants and a shirt, etc. Okay. Gotcha. Here's one thing I forgot to ask about the say the younger sister is like, what was the visual presentation or the what? How did you know people were sick?
Well, I think it was just the general. For my sister, it was the general symptoms of just general symptoms: fever, cough, kind of like maybe like they looked like they were sweating, cold sweats maybe, flush, discoloration of the face, sort of thing. You know, I don't remember what my younger sister was wearing, if that detail is important, but I do remember she had long black hair.
Okay.
Black hair.
Yeah. And this is why I'm glad I remembered to ask, is that it may or may not be relevant, but sometimes or rather until I ask, I don't know if it is relevant. So this was some, say, cold or flu type of thing, very bad, maybe COVID-esque. But it wasn't, their face was rotting off. It wasn't, they were turning purple with veins. It was some other kind of representation. So it's good to just kind of throw that in there and see what we can make of it. Or know eventually we'll know whether or not it might be relevant. So it wasn't long after you arrived there. You saw the guy was in rough shape, probably close to death, in a way that your sister wasn't. He was worse off than her.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of.
I know I couldn't save him at the very least.
At that moment, you're like, he's a goner.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then that's the moment, kind of after that realization of, he's gonna die. There's nothing I can do. That's when you saw the shadow.
Yeah. Oh, but a detail I do remember clearly is he was dead as soon as the shadow passed over. Like, I was sure he was dead as soon as the shadow passed over.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was the shadow. There was no indication in the dream that the shadow caused that, because I was still alive, because the shadow were me in some sense.
Yeah, sure. And that's a good detail to say. It's like, it wasn't like the monster shot a beam and you saw the monster caused the death, but there was something coincident with those two things happening at the same time. The shadow passes over, and that's when you realize he's gone. That's it. There's nothing I can do for him. Any hope of saving him is fini. And
another detail I remember. I went up to him to ask questions and get information from this man. I didn't walk up to him knowing his. I knew he was in rough shape and he was maybe dead, maybe something like that, but I wanted to talk to him. I don't think I talked to him but it's when I got close to him that I realized I couldn't get any information out of him, and
then shadow, then dead. And that is an interesting sequence of events too. There's several different little vignettes, kind of enclosed things that are connected by a common thread of the story, but they're each separate sections. And this is one, just the second one so far. Third one? No, your room, your sister in the hall, go and look for help. There's something in there about that sequence of events too. So kind of just, to put a pin in that in your mind, and when we come back around to it, we can try and make some sense of it. So it was almost immediately after you realized, okay, he's gone, that you decided you needed to head back to the condo, to the apartment. And that is interesting too. And I don't know what it means, of course, not yet, but you had this impression that this was your last stop. And then immediately after that, you're like, there's nowhere else to go. I'm just going to head back. You kind of had that impression of, I guess that's it. I better head home. Okay.
I got the impression that I was lucky because the shadow passed over me, and that I was pushing my luck if I stayed there any longer.
Okay.
I think, like I had to get to safety. Because just like, I was running out of time of like these monsters. I didn't get any impression that they were like be smelling me or like could detect me. I didn't get any impression of that. Just like I narrowly avoided a car accident. The longer I keep driving, the more likely I'm going to. Yeah. I'm going to get into another scenario that might cause a crash is gonna go up, kind of thing. So I was just like,
for sure,
no good.
Yeah. You were driven out on this journey, and you took as many risks as you could. And that last close call was like, that's it. That's as much. If I push it, I'm not going back at all. So I might as well just head back now. There's probably something in there too. And do you remember the journey back, or just scene change?
No, I don't remember any. It's pretty much a scene change.
Okay.
Maybe there's some, and like I know I stumbled upon my sister.
Okay. Was she, as far as you can remember, not where you left her? Like, had she gotten up and tried to move around, and now she's in a different location?
No. I think it was right where I left her. I found her
right where you left her, and that's when you reached her and got close enough to see she'd already passed. She died during the time you were gone.
I think I kind of like held her and tried to like take her a little bit to see if she was alive or something like that, but I realized she was dead. I know that when I got back to the building.
Okay. And that's when you were describing that this kind of intense feeling of guilt and sorrow came over you, as if this is my fault. And not only that,
and also I got the I think I said it, but I'll clarify. I got the sense that everything that was happening, and also the world, like I got a feeling the world was kind of ending, and there was like an apocalyptic vibe to it. Yeah, at that moment. Specific moment.
And I just wanted to clarify too that you may have in one part had the sense of guilt or sorrow that, your sister passed, guilt that you could not save her, but then on top of it there was this other level of, it's not just her, this whole apocalypse is my fault. I did this I'm responsible for the whole thing. Okay. And that was almost immediately that realization came upon you, and bam, your third person bird's eye view over a field. Okay. And then you described it as so in the city there was snow, and it was almost kind of monochromatic, shades of gray, pretty and forest-like in that beautiful sense. But now you're in a clearing in an open area, which is actually more natural, and it's a field, and there's grass. And did you have any sense of?
There's no trees though.
No trees.
Maybe it was a bit of a hill, I guess you could say, sort of like a park for the city, I guess you could say, maybe.
Did you have the sense that you were near the city but outside of it, or actually within the city but you just couldn't see buildings?
Near the city. I don't think we quite left, but we were probably like adjacent to it, and maybe they were like suburbs. I didn't see any suburbs.
Outskirts,
but like, it was kind of a weird transition of the cityscape, I guess.
Yeah, it certainly is. And there's so it would probably stand out to you if you were in even Central Park. No matter where you are in the park, you can look out beyond the trees, and there's buildings everywhere. So this was a very different scene, but it wasn't like you'd gone from the concrete forest to an actual forest. You're in this wide open clearing of some kind, maybe a little hill, and is actually the hill where the ground cracked, and that's where the robot came up. Okay.
Yep.
So there's almost a little subconscious foreshadowing there of, this is not completely flat. There's something in here. There's some contour to the landscape that gives you a clue. And then you kind of described it almost as if those, I'm sure you've probably seen them, but what came to my mind, and you tell me if this is right or wrong, but the stop motion photography of a sprout coming out of the ground, how it kind of pushes the dirt aside as it forces its way up.
Sort of, yeah. And like there are clumps of dirt that kind of like move around. Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah.
And then you described it as, and I'm probably saying it wrong, is it Evangelion, or I've called it Evangelion? I don't even know.
I think everybody pronounces it Evangelion generally, but okay. I mean, it Latin, so we're probably pronouncing it wrong too. Like,
right? I'd probably have to listen.
I think it's Latin in origin. The word it means to evangelize. I think in some sense it's
or the person who evangelizes.
Maybe it might be something like that. I don't know the exact meaning of it.
Now I want to look it up. Actually, this is kind of interesting. The book I'm currently, so I wrote one book, I edited an existing work from 1600s. I'm working on the second one. It has a shit ton of Latin in it, and I'm just using Google Translate. And so every footnote I've got in there, it just says, translated roughly, this is what I think it means. And I am by no means an expert, and I'd be happy to take some feedback on that. But
well, go ahead. A little bit of a tangent, but I heard the like if you were to translate what it's like what Neon Genesis Evangelion means, the title, it means new telling of the Bible, something like that. New telling, I guess you could say. New telling of Genesis. My mistake. New telling of Genesis is what the title of the anime means.
Yeah, and that may be significant.
I heard that saying before the dream. I knew that information before the dream.
Yeah, and of course you'd seen this robot from the anime before the dream. So I think there's definitely something there. Why this image, this thing from this other thing in this place at this moment in the dream? I think there's something there too.
Generally speaking, I saw the anime actually kind of late in my anime career. I saw it, I think in 2016, 2017. I had the dream in 2019. I've been watching anime since as far back as like I was a kid, like 2000s. I took a bit of a break in high school, but because I thought it was like not grown up to watch or whatever. But just some context on that. I always knew about Evangelion from high school on when I fell in love with anime, and like I had a respect for it and stuff like that, and just like the vibe and the understanding of it, or not the understanding, but like the vibe and like the designs of the monsters and like kind of like what the story was about. I had a respect for it, but I kind of pushed off watching it I don't know if unimportant reasons, just like I didn't get around to it. And like the time I watched it, I think was the right time because I had more appreciation for those kinds of stories when I did watch. For
sure. It's also something I've put off. Like so I watch anime too. Full disclosure. I actually like my nighttime routine is I go lay in bed. I put on a couple episodes. I get my eyelids get heavy and it helps me fall asleep. So
right.
I just recently got around to watching the Bakemonogatari series.
That's a great series.
Good. Right. Anyone out there? Yeah. Watch that. It's going to take you on a ride. You're probably going to cry, but it's
different.
Freaking good.
It's a very different anime too. Like if you're used to anime, it looks very different.
Well, my anime career goes back to this is like mornings before school, and I'm talking like second grade, third grade. G.I. Joe, followed by Voltron, the original from back in the 80s. Yeah, and that's the first time I got introduced to say, what is it, the Macross saga?
Macross, yes.
Yeah. Great, like mind-blowing stories. And then I had a lapse in that as well where I did other things, and I came back around to it after Miyazaki's Nausicaa in the Valley of the Winds. That brought me back. I'm like, I remember this stuff is good. And I'm like, these are real cartoons. This is the good shit. Go ahead.
I know this is a off-topic thing, but like there's something about in Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, those giants that caused the Evangelion unit. Like there's like maybe a mythological motif in those two things, and like what they represent to me as a anime viewer.
Sure.
You know? So we're getting ahead of, I'm pushing us ahead.
There's definitely something say mythical in that of like a giant. A giant is something that's, it's much bigger than a normal man, or even other, say, creatures. It's something so massive with so much, say, destructive potential, something maybe to be feared, something that, towers over over us in its stature, in its significance, or destructive power. Yeah, like I was saying. But no, that's good stuff too. And those are definitely the things that start going through my mind when I'm like thinking about, say, the monsters in there. Why are these things, and why do they swim through the air? Why are they kind of whale-like, and there may be undulations? Why are they threatening? Why would they want to? What's the purpose of all that? I don't know any of it, but these are all the things that go through that's why I got to write shit down. I'm like, I'm not going to remember any of this.
It's true.
Yeah. But it is interesting, say, that the robot that came out of the ground, immediately you say it was recognizable as this Unit 1, but the wrong color, or at least not a color consistent with reality. It was red and white instead of purple. I got nothing there. I'm not sure, but again, that's one of those things where I'm like, color change from existing object might be relevant. And you said it came floating out of the ground horizontal, so not vertical, head up, but sideways, laying on its back,
like it was laying down,
like laying on its back, face pointed to to the sky. And it was about how high up did it get before it made its announcement, or did it do anything else in between those moments of breaking the ground?
I would say I kind of cleared the dirt away at the very least before it made its announcement. Like, it was fully out of the earth when it made its announcement. It also proclaimed it somewhat. I thought maybe it proclaimed it slowly, but I don't think I remember that much of the detail of like that. I just know about its proclamation that it wasn't doing it. It wasn't doing it because it was like in a positive to my dream ego at the very least. It wasn't positive towards the dream ego in any sense. Probably as negative as it could be toward, like, the deepest negative you could imagine.
So you have the impression that this announcement was like directed towards you, and that it was meant to be, say, hurtful or mocking, or announcing this kind of self-satisfied victory with having defeated you, like, personally. Okay.
And my dream ego also wasn't like, it got that impression from it, but it didn't really know it. It didn't really, like, I'm as befuddled by it as you are in some sense. It was just like, what is this? Like, it was kind of like directing it at me. I don't know exactly if I'm describing it exactly.
I think
it was
so.
Just like,
if I could put it into other words, it's like you don't know why this thing was so hostile to you, or celebrating its, kind of twisting the knife, but you knew that it was, but you didn't really know why it was. Okay. Yeah, that could probably be a significant thing too. Okay. And it was after making that announcement that then it started to multiply, or copies of it started to appear. And you said they appeared in a certain pattern that alternated. So one was laying down and another one would appear upright?
No. They were all horizontal. They would just kind of like
stack one on top of the other.
Yeah. And as soon as a copy was created, the previous copy would stop moving. It would just kind of freeze in space.
Okay. How was it moving? Was it just kind of that bouncy floating type of moving, and then it would freeze?
Yeah, it was more. It wasn't bouncy. It was like rigid float, like kind of just like as a like.
Okay. So
like kind of rising.
It was in motion, but then it would immediately stop as the next one appeared and kept rising, and then that one would stop, and the next one.
I wouldn't say it wouldn't immediately stop. It would just kind of like slow. It would come to a slow halt.
Okay.
If you want to get super specific, it would come to a slow halt, and the next one would appear like immediately. But like, it wasn't, the speed and the velocity wouldn't vary. The only way it would vary is when it was stopping. It would just kind of slow down. but like none of it would kind of like undulate as it moved forward. It would just kind of like move very smoothly and then stop.
Okay, that is. I don't know what that means either, but again, I think everything means something, whether we figure it out or not. But yeah, seeing that in my mind, and it is interesting that as these shrinking iterations appear, the one before it stops moving. It stopped moving it's like it's whatever it was doing, it doesn't need to do that anymore because now there's this new one that's carrying on with it. But each time it's getting a little bit smaller, and it does kind of, you say, like an arc-ish over to a nearby roof of a building. And by the time it gets there, that final iteration is human size, maybe 5-6 feet, whatever. Okay. Did it, and you said these were copies in terms of like each one the same. The copies weren't changing. They didn't end up in a different form than the original, just a smaller form of the original.
No, they weren't changing. I would say they were probably becoming like they were losing their armor in some sense, like because like the last unit or like the last copy was a person in some sense. I didn't get details on the person or how they looked. I just knew they were a man in some sense, like a well-built man. Maybe not like Arnold Schwarzenegger built, but like maybe Bruce Lee, but taller, I guess. Bruce Lee,
okay.
But taller.
There you go. So no, this is why I asked these questions, because in my mind, what I was seeing was just endless copies of the same robot until it was a man-sized robot. And like, no, it slowly changed through each iteration until this robot is no longer a robot. It is now just an actual human being, a person. And you got the sense that it was a human person, not just looked like one, but the impression you got was, okay, that's a man.
I got the impression that was a very powerful, like, man. Like, it was a man that could, like, bend reality in some sense. Like my, you know, where you hear a scary noise and your imagination kind of populates that with the scariest thing, but when you, like, like, scary movies take advantage of that, and like they don't show you the monster because you stop being afraid of it once you. It's kind of like that. Like I didn't see the man, I didn't see any of his powers, but my like dream ego populated his abilities.
Gotcha.
With, like my fears and like what like,
for sure. And then that's very often how dreams go. You see the symbol, and then sometimes you just know things about it. And where does that knowing come from? You just know it. That's just how dreams work.
Yeah.
But that is an interesting representation too, that you've got, say, this giant, powerful robot, and that it slowly changes over multiple iterations into something that looks like a human or is even human, but still retains a lot of the raw power of the robot in that way, of this giant. The giant may be smaller, but it's still, inside it's still a giant. In that sense.
Yes.
Very interesting.
In that sense, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And then that brings us to, and it was when that person landed there and you had this experience of them, sudden scene change again, you're back in your apartment?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking out through that wall, that window. Again,
so kind of back where you started.
Wall. Mm-hmm. I am not in the bed though. I don't think I think I'm standing and like directly facing the window, kind of thing. Have you ever seen Arrival? Where they interact with the aliens?
So. Is that the one? No, that's the one with the giant black rock looking thing, and they go up through the bottom, and it's all the squid creatures. Yeah. Oh, that's good shit. I don't want to say anything else about that. People need to see that movie.
Definitely.
Spoiler free.
Great.
Like going into the Matrix for the first time. Don't tell anyone what it is if they haven't seen it yet. If they can avoid not knowing at this point. But
right.
There is no spoon. Yes. So now you're standing at this window, and this is where you had the experience that the composition of the entire cityscape had changed. The buildings were not what they looked like the last time you looked out the window.
Yes, they were probably more organized. I remember this detail, but I don't think I mentioned it. Is like there was a clearing in the middle from my my room was in the center, and at the start of that clearing, and it kind of just went down, like sort of like the buildings were aligned in columns, but there was a middle clearing that was very much like grass or a field, like that field, right? But it was flat. There wasn't a hill or anything like that, but it just kind of like went all the way down. Yeah.
And then the buildings were more orderly, whereas before they'd been a little more haphazard. Now they're arranged, say, in kind of neat rows heading down on either side of this open clearing.
Yes.
Did you see anything at the end of it? Could you see the end of it at all?
Yeah, it was the path of those robots at the end, and the horizon where it had that gradient color, and then also the crescent moon pointed up like that, and it was like directly center, like not the path, but like the crescent moon and the clearing, the path of the robots copies or whatever, they went from one end of the scene to the other end, but the crescent moon was above them.
Interesting.
So
if I were to kind of draw that out, you've got this view from here, you've got these buildings, you've got the crescent moon, and you've got this arc of robots going across this open space. Interesting. They're kind of a very well composed image.
Yeah, I wanted to. If I was a good artist, I would love to draw it. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping someday some people out there want to draw some of these dream images. Do it, please send me what you got. I'll put them up where I can. And
that's probably the most striking thing about this dream. And what I remember. Well, I don't want to say clearest because like there might be things that I don't remember about it, but it just that image and the general idea of that image kind of stuck with me about this. Yeah. That clearing and the buildings arranged and then the crescent moon.
For sure. No, that's a very striking image. That's why I'm like, that's why I kind of had to draw it out for myself to say, what is that? Yeah. Especially when things are, say, symmetrical in a certain way, even though the robots are maybe decreasing in size as they go across, and you've got, and this crescent moon that's like, I mean, the moon's always sideways when we're looking at it because we almost never see a moon that's like facing up. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What am I looking at here? And then the color, the color gradients. And then that's where you suddenly, after standing at that window and witnessing that scene, it's like that's the whole reason you were in that room. Then suddenly your new scene change and you're standing next to this what you described as possibly the tallest tower. That was an internal sense you had. This is the tallest tower in the tallest building in the entire city.
In the city.
Okay. Let me just actually put that down one more time here. The miracle of the torn paper.
Oh, there it is. You lose it.
Got it.
Oh, no, you got it.
There is a tiny little piece here, but I think they're older pieces. Look at that. Already getting
10 points. 10 points to Slytherins.
Right? Oh, wait a minute. What is that? 5, 6. I try to number these pages too, so I don't get them mixed up. So, in your impression, did you have a sense of this building as being the largest in the city or the tallest in the city? Which direction?
Just the tallest. Yeah. I think it was actually not the most narrow, but it was a fairly narrow tower, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That was the first thing you noticed even before the grave, or what? Did you notice the grave and then observe, okay, this grave is at the tower, or is the tower at the grave?
No, I think I recognized the tower first.
Okay, and then your attention was drawn to
the grave. Yeah,
to the grave.
Yeah,
was it the colors that caught your attention first, the swirling or moving green, or?
No, I think it was just getting my bearings of like where I was, kind of thing, and like if there was anything I could do before I went and confronted whatever, or like did whatever I was going to do in that tower. I think I was there to confront the man, if that detail.
The idea that at the top of the tower was this powerful man, and that the purpose for which you had gone there was, okay, I got to go face him.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Are details of like patterns in dreams important?
They could
Would
be,
you care for-
because you said that. Yeah, you said there was a specific pattern. Go ahead.
So at the time, I think this pattern actually broke recently with another dream. But at the time, generally, robots and machines and such as those would take negative presences in my dreams. So they would be either nightmare creatures, things that weren't very friendly, or they were hostile, or they were in environments that I felt as hostile. Like scrap metal would be, or like scrap cars and junkyards. Like I remember one dream where I was in one and it was dark and spooky and creepy kind of thing, and there was like another where like there's an engine that kind of just suddenly turns on and it's kind of like shaking, and I'm very scared of it in a sense, like because it's kind of like
For
ghostly, like there's another one where like a similar looking like a robot head is kind of chasing me and like hopping towards me kind of thing,
Okay.
That kind of pattern, like
For sure. Yeah, recurring themes in dreams. And it's got a lot to do with, and the first thing that popped to my mind is that these are non-human things. Even if they're, say a robot is shaped like a person, technically not a person, not even a creature, not alive in that sense. There's, I feel like, I don't know what your impression is, but I feel like there's something there in terms of, I don't know why the dangers of the natural world, like an inhuman. I don't know if something's coming to your mind with that idea.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, I have an idea about it.
Okay.
Do you
want to wait on that for a moment, or do you want
sort of
to
like
get into it?
Sure. We can put a pin on that. Yeah.
No, just to bring it back up.
If you want to get back to the details of it.
Yeah, and we're almost there. I mean, we're right at the very end, of course. And this whole deep dive is basically like now the hour-long portion in the middle, which I think we got a lot of extra details that weren't there before. Much clearer image in my mind, which is why I make a second set of videos out there too. The shortcuts of like, well, some people don't want to listen to this. Let's go. What's the dream? What's the interpretation? Although not as many people watch those, so maybe people want to hear the whole thing. That's fine with me.
Yeah, maybe
less work if I don't have to make a second video out of it. But that's okay.
Right.
So you had the sense that you were at this tower. It was describing it as a tower. It's building tower, but it's towering above you. It's very tall. Maybe not the widest.
Yes.
You're there because you have to, and that's a good question too. Did you get a sense of what purpose it would serve, or the reason why you felt that you were there to confront? You didn't have a choice. You were angry and wanted revenge. It was the only way to save the world.
I guess it was sort of. I guess I felt it as my responsibility to do that at the very least, even though I didn't get a sense that it was very hopeful. Like, what was I going to do to that? Like. This powerful man, like I didn't feel as though I was going there to like, because I thought I could actually solve the problem necessarily. There was maybe a little bit of hope, but like, if there was anything I could do, I have to do it. I should do it, and that's why I'm there, kind of thing.
Yeah, your way of kind of taking responsibility, so to speak. This is win or lose. Right. This is what has to be done. This is what I need to do. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good. Good to know. And it was, say, after that impression of the reason for being there and the imposing nature of the structure and the person or thing you have to confront, then you notice there's a grave. And it was your sister's grave specifically, or that impression?
Yes. I got the impression like there was nothing marking it as her grave or anything like that. I just saw it and it's like, oh, my sister's in there.
You just knew it.
Yeah.
And then that's when you noticed you had that, there's a grave. I know this is my sister's grave. And then the green lights representative of, what was the game again? Dark Souls?
Oh, Dark Souls. Yeah. There's like an equipment you can, or an accessory you can equip that gives you that effect. I'm sure if people watch, or a lot of people watch this, somebody's gonna know it.
And what was in the real world, or in the video game world, attached to our real world? What does that object do that gives you the sparkle? Is it a resurrection device or a healing spell? Or?
I think it's like maybe some effect. I might be able to look it up real quick.
Yeah, take your time. I'm writing out notes.
No, I don't know. I think it's an accessory. I'm pretty sure it's an accessory or some sort of status effect. But I can't find anything.
Some kind of benefit.
Super quick, yeah.
To the character.
Mm-hmm, definitely, yeah. It's very good for the character.
Yeah, usually green is very well. It across games. It's nature, plant life, healing spells. Definitely. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
Although it's
healing
different.
Spells,
different things.
Sometimes it depends on how they use it. Yeah.
That's true. Or green can also
be scary.
It can be scary. It can be slime. It can be
slime. Yeah.
What is it? Disease, poison, rot, etc. It can be a lot of it.
Definitely.
But the impression you got from it was that it was there as a hopeful sign that gave you the impression that something could be done. And that was interesting that you had that experience almost immediately after. You're like, I don't really expect to win, but I have to try. And then you saw the grave and the sparkle and you're like, wait a minute, maybe something actually can be done. It's almost like giving you a little bit of that hope back.
Maybe. Yeah. I would say, yeah, in some sense. Yeah, that was probably, yeah.
Okay. And then,
definitely seeing the green light gave me hope, more than I had at the time of the change. Yeah.
For sure. And that was specifically what gave you that hope was the realization that something could be done to fix it. The way you said that there was a chance to completely rewrite the events, and that was kind of the way you so almost to change the entire story of what had happened throughout the whole dream.
I wouldn't say rewrite.
You could describe it differently.
Yeah, I would say probably it was just to undo the end. Some sense, like we were at the end and I could undo that and like change it. Like maybe people would still know what happened and everything like that, but at the very least they'd be back and you're with me in some sense.
Yeah, and maybe I was a little too specific when I said rewriting the entire dream, but like bringing everyone back to life, like undoing the end of the world itself in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Specific kind of thing. Am I getting darker? Should I turn on the light?
You're getting a little darker, but up to you. Yeah, I'm easy.
Let me turn on the light.
Yeah,
it might strain my eyes.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right.
I'm almost thinking my coffee's just about done. Maybe in a few minutes it's okay to take a break, run to the bathroom, that kind of thing. No rush. But I wanted to get very much to the end of this because this is where you woke up basically, and it was after having that realization that something actually could be done, that maybe your determination to enter the building and confront your responsibility wasn't actually going to be hopeless, that maybe there was a chance it was going to fix this catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And did anything else happen between that? Or I mean, that seems like a very small, short, but intense scene. Building, grave, green light, hope, all of these emotions and experiences at once. You don't remember taking that first step towards the building. You don't remember flying up in the air.
I've been practicing, or I've had 3 lucid dreams.
Yeah.
And I want to get to the control of lucid dreaming that I could maybe revisit that scene, see what that even does. I haven't gotten anywhere close to doing that. But my lucid dreams as of now just happen randomly. The last 2 have happened randomly.
Okay.
But
I don't know that I've ever had one. I mean, I just
Good.
between you and me and fly on the wall out there, I just don't dream much, or rather, I don't remember my dreams very often, or I can count on less than one hand the number of dreams that I can remember. Like this is what happened, and then the rest of them are like, well, I know I dreamed. I got this little snippet of something, but the rest of it's gone. No context for it. But mostly I just wake up in the morning, no memory at all of having any dreams. Sure, I did, but just slept real hard.
It takes some training. It started that way for me. Like I would remember like maybe one detail. It over time, and I think you have your first, it changes how you engage with dreams in general. Because like lucid dreams have just kind of randomly happen every once in a while, and there's probably some meaning to why they occur too, but I haven't.
Yeah. There very well could be. I mean, I wish I could say my wheelhouse, of course, is kind of more scientific. It's all extremely metaphysical and mythological and all these other great things, but it's more like relevant to human experience. Then you've got these things I don't understand. I don't know anything about lucid dreams. I don't know anything about prophetic dreams where people like, I dreamed it and then it happened. I have no idea what to do with that stuff, and I don't even want to pretend I do because I'm just going to sound like an asshole.
At the very least, I think you could probably say like it. Becoming lucid is a symbol, a mythological symbol in some sense, like it's a random thing. Dream symbol that would happen when I first lucid dream and got close to the first lucid dreaming that my mom pointed out. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I think this is what it means, but I would have a flashlight in a dark space. I would be in a dark space and I would pull out a flashlight to look, to help me see a dark space. I had that symbol come up a lot before and even in the first lucid dream, that symbol came up. I had that over and over again, and it's kind of like the same idea, like coming into consciousness kind of thing, trying to see, right?
Yeah. That so maybe there's something there with that desire to see more clearly, sharpening your focus, bringing your attention to bear on the unconscious experiences has something to do with waking you up in the dream. So you're like, now I'm not just experiencing it, I'm in it. I'm here with it, not just seeing it like a movie projected for me. That very well could be something. I don't know. I love that idea though. And that's very symbolic of the like, I'm gonna literally get a better look at this. I'm gonna raise that flashlight up. That's fantastic. His hair is getting out of control. I've been
you don't gotta rub it in, all right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, not to do that.
I do that all the
I've
time.
actually been thinking about letting it grow. I mean, more wizard hair. I don't know. A little bit. Then again, I'm like, it's so annoying, right? Just letting it be for now. People could actually do a little morph compilation of my hair. It was real short first video, and I don't think I've had a haircut since 4 months.
Gotcha.
So it's just getting crazy. Okay, well, if you're ready, now is the third phase where we kind of get into what the hell does it all mean. I don't know. Any questions? I'm just kidding. No, what I like to do is ask people. Right. I'd like to ask. I don't know. Good luck. Thanks for watching. I'd like to ask people if they have impressions. This gets a little more complicated, I suppose, with this one because you had it a while ago. You've had a long time to think about it. You probably have your own ideas. So while I was taking a break there, I was thinking to myself, is it better to ask you to tell me what you think, which is usually what I do, or is it better to do most of my own suggestions because you've already had other people tell you things? I don't know. I mean, do you have any thoughts on just that general idea of the process for the next step?
I mean, I guess we could go back and forth over each symbol kind of thing.
Yeah.
And or each beat, and maybe we could exchange kind of like maybe I start with my idea on what it means, and then you start with your idea, and then the next one you start, and then I'll follow. Yeah. So forth and so on.
It's a pretty consistent part of my process that if it's meaningful to you, it's meaningful. My impressions are just to kind of get you to points of epiphany where you put some pieces together and you're like, oh yeah, that. And
right.
So if you've already had those, it's fine to share them.
Right. Right. What before we start, what to you specifically? I already said that the clearing of the trees and the buildings and seeing the crescent moon and stuff, that was the most striking thing to me in the dream.
Yeah.
And probably, for you, what would you say was like the most striking thing, or what do you think? What's your gander on like what's the
Oh, here he comes. There he is. He's going to lay on the papers. Easy boy. That's okay. Yeah, that did jump out to me as this very well composed shot. Like it's trying to show you something very specific. Here's like the big, so to speak, the big picture through the big window.
Picture, right.
After you've already been through this journey of the separate elements. Stand out to me in terms of,
I don't know a good word for it.
Yeah.
Narrative beat, I guess.
Elements. Yeah. There is this idea of being on a journey of having a purpose or a desired goal that you're trying to accomplish, and having a variety of obstacles, complications, dangers along the way, and narrow bridges and monsters and gloating figures bursting forth, so to speak. There's this the cityscape. I mean, if it's okay to say, we talked before a little bit about what you were going through at the time, it's okay to say the general. So the general context is usually very relevant to the dream. You're saying you were dealing with depression and some suicidal thoughts at that time, and this was actually a dream you had relatively near the beginning of the onset of some of those problems, and that it carried on for a while afterwards, resolved now. But that experience of maybe realizing what you were facing, what was coming upon you, was the beginning of, I mean, this apocalyptic, everyone around you is dying. I think very much related to your thoughts of death in general, maybe your thoughts specifically of your own personal apocalypse. You could end the world. You could end your experience of the world. So we've got that going on in the dream, and you've also seeing how it's affecting other people around you. So that's probably part of your thought process at the time was, I'm not going to be the only one affected by this apocalypse. It's going to hurt other people. And then the journeys may be speaking to how you're viewing. So speaking of this long view down this very open middle path where you've, in the moon and all that stuff. So kind of bringing it back to that imagery, is that may be the kind of iconic representation in your mind of what you were looking down the road to experiencing in this process, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know if you had anyone kind of bring your attention to it in that regard before.
No. Yeah, no. So you're saying that the winding of the trees and stuff like that, that was, if there was anything, like you said, you didn't buy the prophetic nature of stuff, but it was kind of like a guess of the future. I don't know a good word for it. Is that what you're saying? Your
mind's vision, because there is that change in the landscape too, and that's anytime something fixed in the real world, we would assume buildings don't recompose themselves from disorderly to orderly. Any kind of change of that nature in otherwise fixed objects usually has some kind of significance, like literally the landscape itself and the objects that compose the landscape have altered. So you had this almost very, there's something to do with laying in bed and having this, I feel sick. And you did in real life, mental sickness is physical in a very real way, or at least it feels
right.
not much dissimilar from being ill in any other kind of way. And there's this, you're lying in bed. It's a place of comfort and rest. And you've got this big view on the world out there. And what you're seeing is this kind of peaceful, calm, forest-like nature of even a concrete and steel and glass cityscape, but that later, after you've gone through this journey of trying to solve the problem in your mind in the arc of the dream, now everything has composed itself into this very kind of rigid order of things that are no longer kind of haphazard like trees would grow in a forest, but very orderly arrangement and procession of buildings. So there's something about that suggests to me finding order in your own mind, setting your mind, settling your mind on an orderly understanding of what you're going through.
Yeah.
And was this because a lot of people, different for everyone, but it's not uncommon that people have a lot of, say, symptoms of depression before they realize, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, these aren't just idle thoughts of life is hard, but I'm actually having major depression, suicidal thoughts, that kind of thing. And that there might be something to do with that, the acceptance that is happening to you, that then this dream pops up to say, okay, now that I see what's going on, what do I think about it? How do I feel about it? So does it seem like this dream is speaking to that?
Yeah, maybe.
Seeing yourself,
definitely.
Seeing yourself on this road forward of like, okay, now what? What's going to happen to me now that I know this thing is happening? What's going to be the result? How am I going to come out of this? Or am I going to come out of it?
Right. Yeah. And the thing about the robot and its proclamation, I mean, we're skipping around, in some sense.
Sure.
But,
yeah, that's fine.
I don't know if we should start at the start, and stuff like that.
Sometimes I do.
Like,
sometimes whatever stands out to a person, that's where I go first.
The proclamation made, I guess it's the best way to say it.
Sure.
Because it was a masculine vibe to it, It's sort of like it was speaking towards that kind of like, I don't know how to put it. I guess that idea of depression and suicide, it was like speaking to it. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you described it as this thing gloating in a way in victory over you personally, directed at you, and you're like, why are you being so mean? What are you celebrating in the first place? Why are you directing it at me? What the hell is going on here? So there could be a representation there of depression itself, this object being born out of the landscape, from bursting forth from the earth itself, from the physical environment, and again, I keep drawing my mind back to this idea of accepting your situation, identifying, okay, this is what's happening to me. So if there's something that in the robot, that it's announcing that it's got a hold of you in a way, that it has power over you. And that could be also what your mind was saying in that time of like, I didn't choose this. I didn't ask for it. I didn't really cause it to happen. It is happening, and it's got me. And not only that, it seems to have this kind of malicious glee with putting me in a position where it's going to win and I can't stop it.
Right.
Which is which is very much what depression and feels like, is that this thing is happening to you that is, you didn't cause it, you can't cure it necessarily, or rather you don't have control over it in that way. It is something that is happening to you versus something you're doing to yourself.
To some extent, though, I would say the character of my depression was habits I was taking. There was a satisfaction I had fantasizing about that. It's twisted as it sounds, terrible as it sounds. It was like sort of comfort.
Yeah, for sure.
And why I kept, it's kind of like eating pie. Like you can't do that all the time because you're gonna get a bunch of health problems. You can't eat it all day, definitely.
Yeah.
And it was kind of that, like there was a little bit of that in the robot, like that kind of like I don't know if I'm painting the impression onto it or that's actually what I'm getting from it or not. But like there was a little bit of like that it wasn't comfort is what I mean, but like maybe it knew that I was doing that intentionally.
Yeah.
And because I was doing that intentionally, now he's got power over me. That kind of guilt.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Well, there is, yeah, as much as, specifically, what am I trying to say? There's situational depression, clinical depression, which is, anyway, situational depression, you can change your habits, your lifestyle. I like to describe it as Jews in Auschwitz, situational depression. Of course, they're miserable. They're being held in a concentration camp. They're being starved and beaten. Anybody would be majorly depressed under that. But then there's like, my life is good. I got money.
Right,
I got women. I got everything I could hope for. I'm eating 3 square meals a day and they're delicious. And I hate it.
Right,
I hate
and then
all of it. It's miserable. I'm not happy. That's more of the chemical, classic clinical depression side of things.
Definitely.
But okay, so now we're on that. We're in that sphere in general. There are things you can do to make it worse and make it better. And there's, so maybe the robot, in that sense is gloating a bit that you're feeding it, or that you're not caused it to be born, but caused it to say feeding it gave it the power or gave it the ability to erupt forth and actually take off and multiply and be more substantial in a human form. Yeah, so I think there's definitely something there. Yeah, if it resonates with you. That's...
Right. And do you mind if I like interject with
Please,
what I think of the robot symbol?
Yeah.
It occurs throughout my dreams. Well, I thought of this a while ago. I don't know how accurate it is, but like I'm often criticized by friends, families, acquaintances for overthinking.
Oh.
Thinking too deeply into things and stuff. Like I do jujitsu on the side, like martial arts, and my coach says that like I'm a very strategic thinking kind of, like I don't really have flow with my game. It's more just like a methodical, strategic, tactical approach in how I do it. And I think what the robot, in some sense, what the machine represents, is that part of me that is like logical, like very logical and like methodical and structured and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If that is a personality, that's what the robot, in some sense, represents. And what I want to kind of think, why, but like the robot from the dream is a little bit different. Not like how it represents. Well, I don't know, actually. And that's just the character of what I'm saying is, I guess it only represents those ideas in character, not necessarily what they do in the dream necessarily, right? Yeah,
for sure. And then you can have something that represents a theme, like you said, you were having all these multiple dreams or multiple, what is it? Repeating imagery of robotic-like, machine-like things throughout the dream, and that represents a certain idea. And then to have even that idea itself, but also blended and resurrected, reincarnated, continued, it could be like it's partly this, but it's also something else at the same time. It's the blending of these two things. There's something going on there.
Definitely, yeah.
I don't know that I have all the right words to try to express what I'm even saying. It's like it is what it always has been, but now it's also something else in that sense. Or it's another extension or variation on a theme is, I guess, what I was trying to say. Something like that. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and then I don't want to get the stuck on the idea that each image only means one thing, but very often they mean
definitely
more than one thing. For sure. there is also something about this. I think there's a piece of you in the robot. Like it also represents a part of you or a view of yourself, and how you.
What makes you say that specifically? What? Not that I disagree or anything
Sure.
like that, but like just what what would you say supports that exactly?
Yeah, and then in what way is what I was. Whoops, just kick my mic stand. Part of it is that it's announcing this victory over you, and I think there's an intimate connection there with the reason it came out of there. But also that it iterates itself smaller and smaller until it becomes human, and that you feel responsible to say confront it to change the circumstance of the world. So if this dream is about your coming to terms with feeling depressed and how it could end your world, and that there's this sense that it's basically like the entire landscape and everything you're experiencing in there is a part of you in a way. But it isn't just that broad. It's this idea that it's been reduced to a very powerful human, but nonetheless a human sized problem, or a problem in the shape of a human. And that's all coming from within you. And you're in a sense going on this quest, engaging in this struggle, reaching towards this goal to defeat this thing that's inside you, this part of yourself that is trying to end your world when you don't really want that. So it's kind of a vague connection. It's not like the robot is literally you, but in the sense that it's all kind of part. I don't know if that's kind of making sense a little bit.
Oh no, definitely. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. But I get the thing though, and I want like if I could put my foot in the crazy space for a little bit, or
sure, go right ahead. It's all entertaining.
Crazy space. I don't know if you've ever read Aeon by Carl Jung.
I've not read a lot of source material. I should read more, but I got a reading list like ridiculously long.
I understand. So, mine's pretty big, and I haven't gone. Yeah, but
long story short, not yet. Yeah,
the book is where like if you read it first before anything else, it's like Jung was smoking EMT. Like it's just it is because. He takes, because oddly enough, I mean, like he took astrology and alchemy somewhat seriously. He took those seriously in some sense. Not that they were, like horoscope wise or like alchemy, but like they were dream-like ideas. Like, alchemy was the dream of these scientists or very, very smart people that didn't really know what was going on. And they were trying to figure out something about the world, like figure something out about themselves, what they could do about themselves through the world, right? They were trying to turn lead into gold, right? So they're trying to turn themselves lead and find the gold in there, something like that.
For sure, and
right. In Aeon, he takes those ideas and stuff and like he goes really crazy. But he talks about the symbol of the Antichrist, and that the Antichrist is the inversion of Christ. I'm butchering it. If anybody's actually really familiar with this, like, they're like, okay. "Oh, you are such an idiot!" But
you're sharing your understanding for what it's worth.
Understanding,
for sure.
Yeah, for what it's worth. Basically that the Christ symbol is a symbol of the self, and like who and from what I got of Antichrist is also a symbol of the self, but it's inverted in a sense. Whereas like self as Christ, the idea is it's giving, it's self for everyone. It's like the ultimate selflessness in some sense, like he gave his life for people. I don't want to step on any toes, on religious toes or anything like that, but like if you just analyze it from that point, regardless of the metaphysical implications of it, but like just the idea of the story, in that like this was a man that sacrificed himself for everybody, and Antichrist takes that idea and like flips it, so he wants to sacrifice everybody for himself.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's
this just brought to mind, I don't know if you've watched My Hero Academia.
I've watched a little bit. Yeah.
Well, with spoilers for like the next 30 seconds if you haven't watched it yet. But so there's the kid that gets All Might's power, and his power is one for all.
Yeah.
And the Antichrist, his nemesis is all for one. He steals other people's powers and takes them all for himself. There's very much in there. Yeah. And that's exactly what I was thinking as you're describing, is that giving nature versus the taking nature. And I love, and I've said this before too, the yin yang. I consider that one of the oldest names for God. Before we even had language, this idea of understanding duality, light and dark, day and night, up and down.
And Jung is very big on that. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
No, union of opposites and stuff.
Great, and especially in order and chaos. The idea of, each one, neither being superior. That's the thing too, is when you have this wholeness of opposites, it's sometimes better that things are sharp like a knife, and it's sometimes better that things are soft like a pillow. You don't want to sleep on a knife. You don't want to try and cut bread with a pillow. Each thing is superior in its own value, even if they're complete opposites. So the same with order and chaos. I mean, too much order, things are rigid and cannot change, and they collapse under the weight of their own rigidity in that sense. And if they're too chaotic, there's no form. It's like, in order to think outside the box, there has to be a box. But also you should think outside it, but also you should maintain the idea or the structure of a box.
Safe space
in general. It's like our body has a rigid, skeletal structure, and yet we have all this flexibility, and it's the interplay of those two things, the fluidness and flexibility of the skin and the muscles working in tension against the rigidity of the bones. Yeah, that allows us to move and do what we do. So, I mean, we went way off on different tangents, but I love this stuff too. It's like these are the things we started to understand before we had words to express them, with these concepts, and then we started trying to put them into words. But how does all that relate to your dream? And I think there's so first I wanted to back up.
I wanted to say,
go ahead. Yeah.
The way it relates is, I got that vibe from the robot, is that kind of pure, like the elevation of the self beyond necessary. It's like,
you got a kind of Antichrist vibe from it, that it was the opposite.
Sure, yeah. Like, and not just the opposite of good, but like specifically in the selfish, pure self aspects of it, like. Yeah, something like that.
It had that very malicious vibe of celebrating your pain, and that's kind of how we describe, evil. Like good people, we recognize pain, and we can recognize it in others, and it makes us sad. We don't gloat. I mean, there's Schadenfreude of like, you had that coming, you did it to yourself. I warned you, and now I'm kind of going to rub it in a little bit. But this was worse. This was malicious. This was like, like celebrating.
Like he knew what hurt me. Yeah.
And he wanted it to hurt. So first, what I wanted to say, I wanted to go back a little bit to the idea of, you're a little hard on yourself in terms of saying, that you drew satisfaction or comfort from the idea of being able to die. And what I want to say about that is that suicide is a rational choice. That's not the right way to put it. It is a valid syllogism. Do we say valid? Anyway.
Okay.
If the component...
I kind of understand what
it's a valid syllogism based on a faulty premise, is where I'm going with that. And the idea is that if you are in pain, that intolerable pain, and it will never stop, therefore stopping it yourself is a completely logical conclusion.
Right.
This cannot endure. Something's got to give. That you end up with that result. And then that can be very comforting. Like, I can stop the pain. It's not, I can stop it myself. It's not that it will never stop on its own, of course, but that it can be stopped some other method. So the faulty premises are that the pain is intolerable and that it will never end, and that in varying degrees. But if we accept those premises as necessarily true, the conclusion's like, well, of course, well, what are you going to do? And there are any number of circumstances in people's life, especially like living in Oregon here, we have the Death with Dignity Act. And we've got people who are like, look, I got cancer. I've had cancer for a long time. It hurts. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not getting better. There has to literally be the truth of no hope. And then certain conclusions make sense. So, anyone out there listening, please get help if you're having these problems. 99% of the time, I pulled that out of my ass, but most of the time, vast majority of the time, they can be helped and fixed. Chemicals, therapy, all kinds of good stuff. But don't beat yourself up for having these. These are common human experiences. The tragedy of life is immense. Right. There's nothing but just nature shitting on us 24/7. In the last video, I was just talking to a gal. You have to run as fast as you can just to stay in one place in the kingdom of nature. And if you want to get anywhere, you got to run twice as fast. Not everyone can keep that up. It's a tremendous struggle. And no wonder a lot of people give up or sit down and got to take a break once in a while. Lots of self-care stuff out there too. So where am I going with all this?
Amen to all this.
Right? Now I got to connect it back to what you're going through is that I think a lot of these things are this tremendous sense of guilt and responsibility that you're having for causing this is like you blaming yourself for being depressed, if that makes sense. Like you realize, or maybe, at least some part of you is realizing, or not realizing. Realizing means seeing what is true, but theorizing that because this is happening to you, it must be caused by you. Therefore, you feel guilty about this potential end of the world scenario. And yet there's a very hopeful part of all this. I mean, not even just right at the end where you realize that there may be hope and that you're going to fight anyway, which actually this is in a sense, maybe a self-fulfilling prophetic dream. But even in the beginning of this, you had not surrendered to the robot. You had not surrendered to the depression. You're actually seeing perhaps this road ahead of you. And I like the orderly building type of thing. It's, in my mind, it's expressing like in the very beginning, your life is a little more peaceful, natural. Things are disarrayed, but in a forest-like way. And now you've gone through this experience where I think the images are saying, settled your mind on putting things where they need to be to open, in a sense, open up this path to where you're going. You had a moment?
I see that definitely now.
That's kind of what it was saying to me. Now, why the moon? Maybe just because the moon's pretty and you love the moon, and I don't know. It could mean something else. Depends on what the moon means to you.
Right. I mean, if you go back to the alchemical symbol, it was silver, right? And what's silver? It's related to gold. It's the life of gold, or like the feminine and masculine, yin yang,
sun of the moon. Yeah,
the opposite, right? It's a feminine symbol. I'm looking out towards a feminine symbol in some sense. And
I think Sailor Moon had the crescent,
right? Yeah, the exact same, shape, and maybe that some of the depression was in relation to girl troubles in some sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not at all uncommon, actually.
Yeah.
What is it? Was it Bob Marley? No woman, no cry. That's
right.
There's a lot of truth to that. Yeah. Not universal. Not dogging on anyone. Just that's how it works a lot of the times.
Definitely. But yeah, and so some, definitely, looking at it, organizing it, and zoning in on that idea. Yeah. No.
Yeah, and having these robots of descending and altering shape and size kind of arrayed over this is, you're going to if you followed that path that's being shown to you, if you went from where you are looking at it to the end of what you can see, you're going to pass this arch. You're going to go beyond whatever the robot represents. And maybe, it's this, the idea that this was not the end of the dream, but that imagery occurred right before you saw all that happen. And then you're at the base of the building with the grave and the image or symbol of responsibility for the death that you think you may have caused. And this, so it is like you were in that room where this all started, where you first had the idea of, I'm sick, everybody's sick, the whole world is dying. Now you're back in that room, you see the path, and then boom, you're on the path. You're at the tower to confront the negative, powerful thing that's encouraged by both the sense of responsibility to fix it and the hope that what you're doing might have a positive effect, might actually succeed, however daunting it sounds. A lot of times the order of those things in the dream, they're being triggered one after the other,
definitely
opening those concepts in your mind. So I don't know if that speaks to you in any way or relates to other parts of the
dream. No, the relation of seeing that and then cuts. Yeah, no, that I haven't thought of that before. Yeah, I'm just trying to process it in a little bit, but yeah, sure. I haven't thought that part through and what that. Yeah, I guess what I needed probably at the time was just more. Well, it's being more practical. It's taking it a little bit more literally than how I should, but getting ahead of myself maybe a little bit. But maybe there was to go ahead and confront that part, that negative entity of some such, and to organize and move away the things that weren't relevant in some sense.
Yeah.
Keep my eye on the prize in some sense, right? And recognizing that put me on that path. It was the simple thing that just put me in the path. Yeah, okay. You can see that to some extent.
Yeah, or at least the very idea that if you were to accomplish what this image is showing you, which is the clearing of obstacles and the opening of a path. And it's interesting, it wasn't a thoroughfare, it wasn't a blacktop asphalt, it was more of this green natural space, which was, so that the buildings were like trees. There was a green space outside the city, but now you've kind of brought the green space into the city in your mind, and the buildings are no longer like trees. Now they're more orderly, like buildings. I don't know what to make of that, but I think that's interesting too. This you've brought something with you, which is
the mixing of the two reality, or like thought spaces. That's probably not a good word for it, but like vibe, two vibes, I guess is probably the better way to put it.
For sure, yeah, and it's something about that open the path, so to speak, or represents the path itself. This visual representation of seeing where you could go. So we've spent a lot of time on that and the robot, and of course all that's very powerful too. And we haven't really gotten much into, say, the representation of the monsters, the bridges. I mean, the fact of, say, being in this cityscape to begin with. I mean, do you live in an apartment in a large city, or are you more of a suburbs?
At the time, I was in a condo apartment sort of thing. It was a very nice room I was in. But I wasn't in a big city. I was like in the suburbs of the major city, Raleigh. If I want to be specific.
Sure.
I mean, if you've ever been to Raleigh, it's not the biggest city in the world, but I mean, it's spread out. But I
think Portland's kind of the same way. We're not the biggest city here, but it's like 1 million people or something like that, and it's lots of tall buildings.
Well, downtown. I mean, that's more than Raleigh. Like, or well,
I could have that wrong, but I think it's like about 1 million.
Yeah, me too.
Somewhere close there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Yeah, but I was in the suburbs of that city,
Gotcha.
but I was on like the fourth floor of a nice apartment, semi-nice apartment.
Okay, so there's
Not
kind
like
of a reality
super.
connection there ish.
And the window of that condo was big. It wasn't as big as the wall, but
Sure.
it was pretty sizable. Um, uh, and I've lived in the country for a good. I don't know if I have an accent or anything like that.
Not that I can tell,
Well,
but yeah.
not that okay, all right. But it's southern part of that county, and I grew up in a house that was surrounded by trees, and
Okay.
I spent a little time in the suburbs when I was a little bit younger, but like from 10 on to when I was about like 20. I lived in the woods pretty much,
Okay.
and it was in a more southern area. I've always wanted to move to the city. I've always wanted to live in the city. I'm not currently, or well, if I am in a city, it's not a very big one.
Yeah, I'm not much of a living in a condo downtown type of guy. I'm like even the suburbs are. I want to get out in the country. I went looking for homes a little while ago, but couldn't make it work. But I want to be I want to have my own little farm and some goats or something. Just that kind of thing appeals to me.
Yeah. Those are nice. I see pictures of Idaho and Wyoming and some of the nice homes there. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I can respect that wish.
For sure.
To some extent, probably.
When you were younger, living out in the country, say, and surrounded by lots of nature and trees and stuff, it was a pretty happy time in general. You have fond memories. It feels peaceful and calm, kind of like how you described.
Positive. Yeah, I didn't really go outside much. I wasn't one of those people. I played a lot of video games and watched anime and TV.
I want to be out in nature, but I don't imagine I'm going to leave my cabin much. That kind of thing. No, this is me too.
Yeah.
I basically live in my garage, and I did find
where we were kind of creepy though. Like, like there's something about the woods.
Oh yeah.
In general.
Well, there's that whole idea, the iconic human fear of going into the woods. That's where the wolves are.
Right,
That's where you trip and fall. There's no one to save you, or a tree falls on you, or any number of 100 things is going to kill you because it's the deep, dark, scary woods. That's with us from ancient times, but pre-language times.
Yeah,
for sure.
That goes really far back. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it is interesting that say you, and it may not be that strong, but you've started the dream in this comfortable, familiar, pleasant, bringing back imagery, say even from your childhood when things may have been better than they were at that moment for you in life. Mm-hmm. But then you've got these things come upon you, and what does it mean that say you've got an older sister in real life, but in the dream she's younger? So to have a younger sibling makes you, it kind of increases the level of feeling responsible. And I don't know if in real life you ever sometimes feel like you're still kind of caretaking your older sister. Or has it never really been that way with you guys?
She kind of caretaked me a lot when I was younger. Okay. I think older, maybe a little bit. Yeah, like as we got older, she looks to me for advice much more often than I look to her.
Okay, that could be part of that representation.
My 20s on my 18-year-old self on, she kind of looked more to me for advice than the other way around.
Gotcha. And this dream happened kind of after that, a little bit of a role reversal. So in some ways, even though she was older, maybe she's behaved more like a younger sister that looked up to you, so to speak.
Maybe. Yeah. No, yeah. I haven't even thought about that. Yeah.
No, a little bit of that. But then that also gives you a tremendous sense of responsibility. Like if you're going to be someone's senpai, that they don't just fetch you stuff. You're obligated to take care of them and teach them the kohai. So when there is that relationship, it's a tremendous sense of responsibility, and then you feel guilt if you fail in that as well. So so that could have been part of that wrapped up with the depression in terms of like, it will hurt her. This apocalypse of the world is going to kill her as much, or kill your ability to help her because you're going to be gone. Yeah.
She's gone through this much worse than I have. Like her she's had depressive episodes.
Did she hit it first or since?
She I haven't, as far as I could tell, no. But
she's just talked to you about that.
Early 20s, she would like, so once it would be like seasonal almost kind of thing.
Yeah. Gotcha. And I don't know if you want to say too much about that. We haven't asked her if it's okay, but nobody knows who she is. So
right,
I don't know how secretive she is about it or anything. But
true. Yeah. No. Definitely. Yeah. Don't want to be like broadcasting it, but yeah, just a general idea.
So I don't have to cut anything out either.
Definitely. Yeah.
For sure. No, but that's okay because it's definitely related to personal experience of family dynamics. So that goes into it as well. And the idea of the specific. Sometimes what I forget to do is like get into why these dream images in relation to the overarching theme. And I think part of it is going to say something about what you think of the process. What am I trying to say? There was an initial failure of the recognition of needing to seek help, the struggle of going through the motions and having it just be all for nothing. You come back, the guy you found is dead. You looked all over the city. You get back, your sister's dead, and then bam, you're in the robot phase, where now it's gloating over this failure in a sense. But I think there's at that time when you were coming to terms with what was happening to you, you may have already tried some things that didn't work to make yourself feel better or snap yourself out of it. Maybe there's an idea of these bridges not being robust. So maybe your connections with other people were not
definitely
tenuous.
You're hitting on something there. Maybe
kind of light.
I definitely got a bit of an alienation.
Yeah, these kind of light, thin structures. You're connected, but it's not robust.
Not my closest friends, but like I had like groups of friends out there that I got an alienation from them very like a couple months before this dream that like upset me. I know that, and like I got the feeling like they really didn't understand me, and I didn't like that. Like. It's one thing to not be understood, but it's also like you're trying to be in some sense, and like
it's more like an active rejection rather than an ignorance, huh?
Yeah,
or a pushing away in a sense. Like I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with you. You're not that important to me, type of thing.
Maybe, a little bit of that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and so you may have gone through. If we again. Each object meaning perhaps multiple things. There's a sense some of these buildings peopling this cityscape, which would say be a representation of your life environment in general. These buildings might have also kind of been people in a way, and you're going from one to the next, trying to find a solution to your problem. And you get, I don't know about this. Before I get there though, also knowing that there's danger in traveling these paths, that there's these monsters out there that, I don't know why Leviathan, just that name comes to mind. Like, and like in the Bible, it's represented as a serpent, but it's also been represented, say in Pinocchio, as a whale. That's the image of whale,
and a giant fish.
Yeah, the giant fish. Yeah, exactly. Although the giant
might also be related to Cthulhu.
Exactly. Yeah. These strange serpents in the seas. Yeah. Watch out.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, for sure. I think it's all and actually, if that's mythology you are aware of, it's going to influence your dream. So it very well could be. But these, the idea that maybe you never saw when you only saw the shadow of it. There's something there too, where there's vague. You knew what they were. You knew what they were, but they were, as you were saying, like that movie monster thing where you never really see it, but it's there and it's dangerous and it could get you. And I don't know if that's also, what kind of danger is that representing? There's dangers to traveling these.
Maybe the danger of the.
Go ahead.
Danger of the. Well, I mean, if we take the symbol of. Take the symbol of the towers or the people, like or take that. Maybe it's what? Well, maybe don't know. My first thought is, understanding me, but I don't quite see that. Like understanding something I don't want them to understand.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I see that, if that clicks as well.
There's a thought that occurred to me while you were thinking as well, is that what are these bridges? It's only while you're, say, on the bridge, while you're traveling this kind of tenuous connection, that the risk exists. So it's almost like the risk is in the process of reaching out, or in relying on, in putting stress on the bridge itself, putting your feet on this narrow path that opens you up to that danger. Like, because you're not in danger inside the buildings. You're only in danger when you're exposed. So there's probably something to do with reaching out to other people, making you vulnerable.
Right.
And there's this big monsters, and maybe this iconic representation of this vulnerability.
Yeah. Like a little bit of, like going outside my comfort zone, being, and in relation to people and looking for help. Yeah. Because I mean, I going back to, like the context of like this depression, I kept it a secret, like the biggest secret. I just told my friends, like my closest friends, July of last year, 2020. This was happening in 2019.
Yeah.
And I asked them if they could tell, and they said no, they couldn't. It was like they. One, I was living with a roommate at the time who's still a close friend, and he said, when I mentioned it, that like, yeah, you did act a little bit differently, but I didn't really see it as like a big problem or anything like that. But yeah, there was a lot of like, I definitely kept it a secret, and part of it was that responsibility, kind of getting myself feeling guilty about it. I didn't want to have others to know I was thinking or feeling that way.
Yeah.
And so
there's kind of a double-edged sword with that too. Well, not double-edged sword. When I say there's two ways that comes upon us. And one is, I don't want to make this someone else's problem. Then you feel even worse, like burdening other people with what you're going on.
That went through my head. Yeah.
And there's the other flip side of it, is this is embarrassing. I mean, I can't just get my shit together, and I don't want people to know I'm suffering, or we feel weak, because we are kind of being dominated by this thing that we can't control, and that's kind of embarrassing too. So there's two reasons why people keep it to themselves, and we do a pretty good job faking a lot of things. I mean, we have long experience putting on masks throughout our life, taking our different roles.
Right. Yeah.
One of those is, I'm the guy that's okay. Everything's fine. Not gonna bother. Not gonna bother because it's not gonna work. Don't want to hurt your feelings. Don't want to be embarrassed. And a lot of those things keep us isolated.
Oh, also make the problem about me, kind of thing. Like a little bit of that too. Yeah.
There's an embarrassment there too, of not only am I, say, weak is how we would view ourselves. I can't handle this on my own. But then asking for help is really hard for people. Of like, I can't do this on my own. And that's tied up with making it someone else's problem. It's like, we don't want to burden someone else, but we also don't want that shame of needing to rely on someone else. And this is a lot. It's not that any of these things are inherently burdensome, shameful. This is all, but these are the complicated. And then it's made worse with the depression, saying, well, you don't deserve it anyway, and you should just die because it's all fucking hopeless. And depression is a liar, and it wants to hurt you. Yeah. Like this monster. Totally. Yeah. That wants to gloat over its victory over you.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a way to very much a good way to.
No, there's a lot of things that are connecting. This is really, really interesting, fascinating. Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad. That's that's why I do this. That makes me really happy, honestly, to just have people not only tell me that, but to really have that experience of like, whoa, I'm glad I talked to that guy. I never thought of it that way. I never put those pieces together. Well, that's huge.
Mostly when I thought about this dream, it's usually been like the last part, like the robot part. Like I didn't really think too much about the initial thing that set it up, kind of thing. And like you said, you've kind of enlightened me on a lot of the things that were important about it. And no.
Yeah, and I was real focused down on that stuff too, because a lot of that is more the more powerful imagery and a little bit easier to grasp onto. And I'm actually kind of proud of myself that I remembered to go back and look at some of the other stuff, because a lot of times I'll just go, and that's our session. We'll see you next week. That kind of thing. But I never want to cut anybody off. Speaking of which, though, before I take up too much of your time, it's this double-edged sword in that too. Did you want to examine some elements closer again, or get into more things that we didn't touch on, or do you want to talk a little bit about some other interpretations you've had offered to you, or your own understandings before we talked? I don't know what's most interesting to you. I'm pretty easy.
I got you. Let me think for a sec. Just out of curiosity,
Sure.
What's your time frame right now?
It's 3:15 in the afternoon, and I got, for the time being, I got nothing but time. We can go another hour if you wanted to, or we can wrap it up in 5 minutes, whatever you want.
Yeah. We'll play it by ear. I think maybe somewhere between 15 to 45 minutes should be, I think,
sure,
enough. Yeah. Okay. So, the interpretations, maybe interpretations, and what I've been offered and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. What have other folks told you? I'm curious.
One guy said it was just my representation of a. So I posted this on r/dream interpretation, which is a very rapidly growing sub, by the way. Like, if you guys want to, get a very, very short snippet of what somebody might think your dream means.
Yeah, that's great. I lurk there too. I may have found some people there to talk to.
He said it was an angel, and like he took it more literally how he meant it, but like if you take it, just the symbol of angel is, angel is kind of like a ideal or value that you show reverence to in some sense. We could talk all day about metaphysical things, and we don't really have evidence for them, but we can talk philosophically or logically about like ideal and something like that, and that like this new ideal came to life in my psyche in some sense, and it was transforming everything. It was and like from what I get on dream interpretation, r/dream interpretation, is they take death in dreams as more neutral. Like from what I get from you is like you take it as more maybe it means more than just what it means, but it's also somewhat negative. Like to me, I get the impression like everybody thinks of it as a neutral idea, and I guess it can be in some sense, sure. But
I guess the impression I got from you was the maliciousness of it. It didn't seem like it was indifferent. So I was going with your feeling from that object of like, okay, how does that relate? But if we go with, say, the birth of an angel, and maybe the gloating wasn't malicious, or maybe that's one way to understand it. But the other is it was announcing a victory over you, or at least a part of you, some part of you that had to die so that some other part could be born. And then again, it would still kind of be you, or a representation of you, or iconic of an aspiration or some change you were reaching for. That very well could be as well. Yeah, because sometimes we got to kill off certain ideas of ourselves in our imagination to then let other ideas be born. And
right. Yeah, we don't really understand how that works very much. How neurons just come together and like they stop thinking one thing and go to But and if we take that idea, and like what I did is I kind of did some of my own thinking with that. Like what is this new ideal, and like the kind of idea of the selfish, the Antichrist vibe, that pure selfishness, that nation of the self beyond what's right or just or whatever you want to say. It was maybe a temptation.
Sure.
in some sense to be, because like there was, I'm going to get into a little bit more details of the context of what was happening to me at the time. Like I had this acquaintance of friends, and it was me being extroverted. It was me, like I threw a party earlier in the year that was going good, but ended really terribly. Somebody almost died.
Oh shit!
Alcohol poisoning and stuff like that, and it was like a college party, sort of thing. And I had a lot of like acquaintances and friends and stuff like that. And I got an alienation from them as after like as time went on, like after this party. This party happened more in March, I want to say. End of March, I want to say. And the alienation happened sometime in like the end of the spring, May, April, some of June, I had that alienation, and I kind of want to draw on like this idea that maybe that there was a temptation to be more selfish than I was acting. Like the reason I got all those friends, the reason I was able to throw that party was I was being selfless. I was being empathetic towards all these people and trying to provide a fun and entertaining time for them. And that made me popular in some sense, but it wasn't. I never got anything out of it for myself.
Yeah,
was maybe the conclusion I came to. It
wasn't really a
and
payoff.
The temptation. Yeah. The temptation, the robot, in a sense, gave off the sense of temptation to attempt to take more.
Yeah, for sure. It does offer the potential of an alternative way of acting in the world.
Yeah.
And then, so sometimes these potentials present themselves because we can hold ideas in our mind that we don't endorse. I can say, what would it be like if I go to Hawaii? And I can imagine that. And I don't really like travel or planes, but I can put that thought in my head and say, let's explore this theoretically. And we can do that with ourselves too, in terms of changing our personality. You say, I can just make different decisions. If I did that, what's that going to look like? And maybe there was a part of you that was saying, if I change the way I interact with the world, if I say, allow this robot selfish thing to be born, to erupt forth from the landscape that is me, what would that end up being like? And I think maybe by the end of the dream, you'd kind of come to the conclusion in your own mind, or at least your natural inclination fighting that was to say, I don't think I really want that. I think I'm going to confront that temptation and oppose it, even if I think it might win, even if I think it might be too tempting and I don't even have the power to defeat it in that sense. Yeah. So, and there is a kind of, what is it? We would think of a more selfish person being more likely to gloat. So instead of being, say, malicious and celebrating your pain, that it could have been saying, I'm just happy I won. I've been born. You've allowed me to come into being, and I'm gonna just be, what is it, smug about it, kind of. So that could have been more than that. I might have been giving you too many words sometimes, or putting my own spin on what you were describing. So I don't. I always wonder if I'm doing that. I do the best I can, of course, but it's always good to get another possibility of it.
If you have it, there's been far and few between. Yeah. So
good. Yeah, I'm always trying there. Yeah. Did you get other suggestions of what some of the symbols could have meant? Just telling, have you told friends, family, other wise counselors you trust, that kind of thing?
I told my mother, but she couldn't make any sense of it. She's much more like metaphysical and like religious about this stuff. I have to constantly tell her that like I can't predict the future, or or be careful with that idea at least. You can't know that for certain.
I wouldn't make any I wouldn't bet the farm on it, so to speak. Even if you're pretty
exactly.
sure,
Yeah,
even if a dream felt really strongly like it means something specific, be careful with that. Yeah.
She couldn't make too many heads or tails on it. I went on r/young. I think the person who responded gave a little bit too much of their interpretation, or like put a little bit too much of their own ideas on it. Like he thought I was distraught about my outlook on my career.
Oh,
in some sense, in some sense, because I mentioned I was halfway through an engineering degree. He was also an engineer.
Gotcha.
And he said it was a pessimistic. Well, at least the monsters swimming around the city were kind of a pessimistic look on the outlook of my career and my life in some sense.
Sure. Very well could be. And I completely forgot you mentioned the idea of the engineering thing, which is what you were going through at the time when you had the depression. Is you're in school and you missed a bunch of classes, which you probably felt guilty about that too. You're not taking care of responsibilities.
Definitely,
but the idea of this theme of robots as well goes very well with engineering. Just the idea of confronting this something daunting, something difficult to grasp, even if it's something you enjoy. That what am I trying to say? It's like looking at a really big book and God, you want to read it, but man, it's going to be a pain in the ass to slog through it. As much as you enjoy it, it's a daunting task. So there could be something, I don't know. And it depends if this fits with your mind, but to my mind, those ideas of engineering, robots, of course, those kind of fit together.
Definitely. They click together. And my mom brought it up before, but she didn't bring it up she brought it very up in a literal way. Like when I see a robot or something like that, it means like I'm not studying enough engineering, kind of just a way of like manipulating me to be a better student.
Or if we run with that idea of the guy that's saying that it was a pessimistic view on your career, it could be this, if we focused on that just exclusively, it's okay. How would that apply to the robot? The idea that it would defeat you, that this attempt to master engineering would be unsuccessful, and that this robot would take over, or be this robot of undefeatable engineering would be born from your attempt to master it. So there could be something there too. And again, it could be all wrapped up. It could be all wrapped up in all of these things at the same time.
Well, I mean, this is going to, you cut the other part out because it was just introductions, but I'm going to go back to the guy, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
He does say that there's, mental and ideas take the shortest path, right? They're how do you say it? They take the path of least resistance. So if they can take a symbol or an idea and use it in multiple different ways, it'll do that. It saves it energy.
Yeah, represent multiple things at once. Yeah.
So definitely.
And it's certainly all those things that are, if things are connected to something else, you see it as one whole picture, even if it's composed of multiple parts that are related. Something like that. I'm not expressing that very well.
I got some of it.
Sometimes I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Me neither. Happened like 3 times in this video. So
this one's Baby. She's been on a couple of videos so far.
I gotcha.
We've become the unofficial cat rescue sanctuary for our block. Try and find them homes, and some of them stuck around. Right. So anyway,
I gotcha. That's nice.
Yeah. Oh well, we love. Yeah, we're cat people for sure. They just kind of, you put the food out, you clean their litter box once in a while. They take care of themselves. I love that.
Yeah, I know. And
this one sleeps on my papers. So,
right.
So we went through some other suggestions people gave you, and kind of, I could see why they make those connections. That's why I get on. I'd love to give people more feedback on Reddit or in text. People say, can you interpret this? And I'm like, not without a conversation. I got to have this kind of back and forth where I say, was it like this? Was it like that? It just doesn't work. Doesn't work in text. And there's never, to my mind, there's never a single meaning. Like the Dream Dictionary approach, not to dog on anyone. I don't think it's legit. You see a crow in your dream. Is it a crow? Does it always mean you got money coming? What does crow mean to you? What does the color black represent? What was the crow doing? How big was it? All these different things.
Right.
I think
all those are important. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. And that's just kind of things I can't back and forth questions with people of that.
And when it comes to my mother, she's very big on that. Like kind of like looking up the meaning and like finding it on those places and like, and like it doesn't necessarily have one meaning, like
for sure. And that doesn't mean that there's no value. And I go back and forth on this too. It's like there are, if you and I share a similar cultural framework, we have similar understandings of what certain objects might mean in that cultural context. And so we can say, here's maybe a common reference. How does that apply here? But we can always start with that common reference. And there's things common to human experience. I mean, the idea of drowning, just iconic or symbolic things. The idea of a tsunami, like in one of my other videos. There's some things you can draw from that, but then it's always going to be, does that resonate with you? Do you get the vibe? And if it doesn't, we go a different way. So, yeah.
Right.
That's my process.
Yeah. Definitely.
Were there more elements of the dream that you wanted to tease apart or look at a little more closely? I'm afraid
maybe the dead man.
Oh yeah. No, I was kind of getting to that. That was where I was going after the idea of connection. So if we're looking at these buildings, maybe as or at least the bridges as representative of connections between you and other people that aren't very solid and that expose you to danger. There's something in the idea of trying to keep yourself safe from having danger be able to spot you by being in this protected alcove-ish, but it's just kind of the smart move is let's just not walk out in the open because that's exposing myself. But even in there, you find someone, you're looking for help. You find someone who needs help, but you realize you can't even help him. He can't help you. And there's something there with it. This is the imagery, the realization you're having at the end of your process of reaching out, that all you find is death, that all you find is people who can't help you, people that are too busy helping themselves, or they got their own problems, so they got nothing to give.
Right.
I don't know if that's ringing a bell. That was kind of what I thought.
Oh, that originally. That feeds into the alienation vibe and the selfishness kind of, I see it. Yeah. Yeah.
You go on this journey, reaching out to all these other people, and the end of the journey is they got problems of their own. They got no time for me. Literally, they're dead to me, or I'm dead to them, so to speak. And you've got the end of those connections or relationships with people, and then that brings you back home to confront. Well, I got nowhere else to go, but just to go face my problem.
Yeah. Right. But also, the monster passing over me. Right.
Yes.
Right as I realized that. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually it is those sequence of events that the mind's processing this one idea, and what is that? There's that sequence of events, that connection of, was it you realize he died and then the monster passes over, or was it you said it was kind of simultaneously, the shadow passes over, and that's when you realize he's dead. Not that the shadow caused it, but it was that simultaneous thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the recognition that reaching out, finding like I'm most vulnerable maybe when I find somebody that can't help me. I've reached out and I found somebody that can't help me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too, because there's an act of, we were talking about kind of rejection in a way, and that's the big risk is that we're going to expose our emotions, and the emotional pain we're in is going to be made worse by someone saying they don't care, or us being embarrassed that we reached out and they we felt burdened. We felt like we were a burden upon them. We feel shame about that too. So yeah, I think a lot of these monsters are those the shame and doubt and
and all the dangers present in reaching out, kind of thing.
That they're going to find you in this process and make it worse, do more damage.
You're right. Yeah.
Something like that stands out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that works. Yeah. Oh man, crazy.
I love these moments. Like I saw it too. There's a moment where people go, "Whoa."
Yeah.
It's like Keanu Reeves. I know kung fu.
yeah.
That's that moment.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Very cool. I don't know if anything else stands out to me. Sorry, son. Come on, give me the papers.
Yeah, I think
that's all my little carrots I made on all the different notes. Yeah, I think we got you feel like we got something? You feel like you got something out of this experience?
Definitely, yeah. Like at least understanding it. If I was going to leave off on anything, I did mention that the robot image changed in some sense. It was self-sacrificing in another dream. It was like I can go into it real quick, but
in a dream that happened later, this same type of robot appeared
very recently too. Yeah, okay. It was like a month ago,
and it had more of a
not the same robot, but a robot.
A robot.
It was,
gotcha.
If you've seen Rogue One, the KSO unit, the tall black, kind of skinny.
Yeah, I remember robot. That.
Yeah. We were at a house that was very important and familiar to me, but there were soldiers moving in on it, and he went outside and he had two guns and was just shooting all of them, and I took a position in the upstairs and shot them from far away. He ended up dying, and then I got to him, and I was trying to salvage him and try to pulled out his memory chip, and very self-sacrificing, very different vibe to him. It was very, very different vibe to other robots and machines that I've seen.
Yeah, that is interesting. You've got the theme of robots coming back, but their behavior is changing. Where before they were threatening, menacing, gloating. Now you got one who's sacrificing for you. So I think that's a very positive in a sense of saying you are in a different place. Whatever those robots represent to you, it's going to be shown as a reflection of that new headspace you're in.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that is a good way to wrap it up, and it's a little positive note, a little more, showing people you're okay. Definitely. You're going to be okay. You got through the hard times. You're doing much better now. So I don't want anyone out there to worry.
Definitely.
Our friend's going to be okay.
Yeah. And if anybody needs help, you know the resources though.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. You could always look in the About Me section. I've got links to the National Suicide Hotline and National Alliance on the Mentally Ill. So if you need help, talk to somebody. It's you're not alone. You are not the first person to experience this, and there's all kinds of help out there. And if you have any dreams you want to interpret, you can talk to me, but don't just talk to me. I'm just one guy doing a thing. There's lots of people out there. Just get some feedback and some thoughts. So well, if that works for you, maybe I'll have you hang out a couple minutes after I kill the broadcast, and we'll say goodbye. But I'll just say, hey, thanks again to our friend Kevin for being here, sharing this fantastic dream with us. Nice long episode. I'll chop it down a little bit, but I appreciate you sharing and just being so open about everything. That makes this process so much more meaningful and
right.
Full. There's a fullness to it when people give a lot of detail. Definitely. So I appreciate that.
My pleasure. My deepest pleasure for you being willing to help me through, talk this through and understand it. I can't find too many people like you that are have the knowledge and the willingness to do this. But
thank you very much. I'm gonna blush now. We're gonna hide it in the filter. So I'll just I'm very bad at goodbyes and ending things, so I'm awkward and whatnot. So I'll just say, hey, this has been another episode of Dreamscapes. Thanks for listening, and you can like, share, subscribe. I got links in there. I published a book and all that good stuff. You know the spiel. We'll see you next time. Thanks.